I believe everybody can draw. We all see the world in a different way, and the way we see the world is then the way we draw. So what we're seeing is what then we draw on paper. I draw very loosely. My style is sometimes out of perspective, but then there's people that draw very true to life and a lot of detail. And then there's a lot of people in between that draw a whole heap of different ways. There is not one way that's right or one way that's wrong. It's all drawing and it's all art. Hi, I'm Sandy Doble. My art studio, Dryland Studio, is set up at the old ambulance station in Nambour. This video is how I draw. Okay, to start off with, I'll just show you a few different techniques to get a few different marks on the paper. So with the paper on your crayon, just to use for straight lines, use the edge and you get a nice dark line. By being lighter, you get lighter lines, and then heavier. The more pressure you put on, you'll get a heavier line. So to start with, that's good to just get your line work in that way. But then I take the paper off my crayon and snap it. And by doing that, then you can use your crayon on the side, and then you get the better filling in. Also with this, you can go lighter and then you can go darker. With the oil pastels, you can really work them in and get a real inky dark black. So you can get some really thick dark areas or really light areas. The other thing I like to do as well is if I'm shading an area, I'll then use my fingers and then it can smudge that out and get more marks and more different for the shading. You do get very black fingers, but it's all part of the fun. And then because you've already got that mess on your fingers, you can get a really light shaded area. Our next thing to think about is composition. So today we're working in the gallery space at the old Ambo, and my main subject is going to be one of the empty chairs, because I'm still working with the whole first wave exhibition idea of the empty gallery space and nobody here. So what I have already done is actually looked at the chair, put it in a space where the lines all lead in together. But another trick that I really like to do is I get my phone and take a photo. And by taking photos of your composition, then you can look at them, and it just makes it so much easier to see where something might be out of place or needed to be moved over. And then you set it up so that you're then ready to draw. It just makes it so much easier. So I've got it all ready. I've got the chair set up with the lines going where I want. But to start with, we will do some warm-up drawings. Okay, for the first warm-up drawing, what I usually like to do is just really quick, basic lines to get the shapes, the lines in the gallery, just to get some really basic information down. It doesn't have to look anything amazing. It's just all about getting your eye in to start with. So that doesn't even really look like much at the moment, but it's starting to get me moving with the gallery and seeing where everything is and making sure you keep looking at your subject all the time. That really does make a difference. Now with this next one, we'll bring in more shadows and more of the shapes as well. So this time I'm going to use the side of the oil pastel to put the shapes in. It still doesn't have to look anything perfect, but we're just doing it and put some shadow in this time as well. Put some legs in, some grounding to ground the chair. But just keep remembering to look at your subject, because what your brain will do sometimes is it thinks it knows what a chair looks like, and it will take over and it will draw the chair without you looking at it. And then when you go back and look at it, what your brain thought it was doing is totally different to what you're seeing. A really good way to sort of stop this from happening is, instead of looking at it as a chair, look at it as a series of shapes that then all join together to make the whole. Okay. Okay, now we've done our warm-ups, so let's start drawing. So this time I'm going to take a little bit more time, and I'm going to start on the subject, which is this time a chair, but I'm not thinking of it as a chair, I'm thinking of it as shapes, and really take note of how everything fits together. And your perspectives of, like, with on the arms of the chair, how they come out and how they line up with each other. It doesn't have to be perfect, but it just gives you that idea of the shape. So, and how it all fits together. So I've just got the outline mainly of the chair there at the moment. And now I'll put some little legs on it. It just makes it sit better in the space. Looking at the shape of the legs and how they sit. Going to give it a little bit of grounding to start with. Now I've got the basic shape of the chair. I'm pretty happy with that. Don't worry if you've got more than one line. It will just add to the drawing overall. Now what I'm going to do is place the chair in the space. So what we've got is, the next line that I like to put in now is where the gallery floor meets the wall. So to get that perspective in, and then the corner, and then it coming through the other side. Also, what we've got coming up the back of the chair is like a pile, a support. It's in the gallery space that it sticks out from the wall a bit. And this little bit is in shadow. So put a little bit of shadow in there. Then up in this back corner as well, there's another shape where it indents in a bit in the wall. So I'm not going to put too much detail in those at the moment, but just get them in there to get a good perspective of. So I've got the basic shapes in there now. So now I will bring in some shading. I'll start in the chair. So on the chair, this arm is in a lot of shadow, and so is this area here. Also back in here. Because I'm bringing the shadow in here, I'll bring those lines there darker so that you can see the shape of the cushion. And bring in some shading on here. Also, with this cushion here, there's some really dark, inky darkness in underneath, and that's where you can really work in with the pastel. And then this back corner is a lot darker. And by doing these darkness and everything, it gives its shape and it gives it that dimensional quality as well, so that then it's not sitting there flat on the board. And also by putting shading underneath, it brings it and grounds it and it's not looking like it's floating in the air then. Also in this back cushion, there's shaded areas as well. And this is a really good time when you can use your finger just to bring that section of shading in without making it too dark. So this chair actually looks like it's got some shape, but it's not that perfectly drawn chair, but it's still, you still know that it's a chair. So now what I'll do is I'll bring these lines in that little bit darker and get some perspective and shape to the back. So now, also on these walls, there's like a pipe or an electrical cable that goes around the bottom of the gallery. So just putting that in as well brings in more interest in it. There's also shadow in this area. And up in here. The shadow really pushes things back. So black will push things back and light will pull things forward. Now with the floor, in this gallery there is all the tiles on the floor. I like to put them in. You don't have to be perfect with them, but it really gives that point of difference to the gallery wall at the back. It doesn't matter if they're not perfectly aligned. And then put the others going that way. I do try so that you've got that perspective of the wall being further back than the tiles at the front. I do try and make the tile shapes at the front that little bit bigger than at the back by just putting a bit of angle on your lines. It also just gives the drawing that little bit more interest. Now, to push this part back, because I've already got so much crayon on my fingers, it's enough to put that shading in at the back. And this stage is really just looking at it, stepping back. It's always good to step back from your drawing if you can, and then you see it as a whole, and then it will show you where it needs work. Like make this a bit darker at the back to push that area back. This is also very white. Don't worry about those little things that happen. I just think that they make your drawings that little bit more interesting. And I think I'm happy with that. I'm Sandy Doble. Thank you very much for watching. I really hope you got something from it. The Old Ambulance Station is the creative heart of the Sunshine Coast hinterland. Come visit us.